Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you on how to build a drift car or pickup truck in Southwest Florida. Please note, before we continue, there are two prerequisites that are needed for you to do this. First thing you'll need is the level 3 upgrades, which is the max upgrades you can get for your engine, transmission, etc. You're going to need to unlock those first. If you don't have those unlocked, make sure you can grind those out on either the dealership or over at like Sussie's or at Sunset Performance. That way you'll be able to unlock those upgrades. You will also need the advanced tuning game pass, which is the entirety of this video. If you do not have the advanced tuning game pass, you're not going to be able to fine tune your car, and you're going to be running the stock tune, and for drifting, it's not really the greatest. The game pass costs 49 Robux, and it's usually pretty often for the game pass, if the game ever does get updated, for the game passes to get discounted, and it'll be a really good time for you to get those. And even at the normal prices, they're not priced too terribly. If you don't have the game pass, I hate to say this, but you're gonna have to click off the video now. But if you're saving up Robux and you're gonna be doing this in the future, once you do have enough Robux, you'll be able to purchase it. I mean, you can go ahead and save it. You got all these set in stone? That's good. We can go ahead and jump right into it. So the car that we're going to be using for today's build will be the Nissan 180SX. A majority of the cars in this list will work with this tune. The only exceptions are heavier cars like I mean, obviously pickup trucks like this, like the Ranger, Jeeps, any electric cars except for the Roadster. The reason why I say for the Roadster is because the Roadster makes so much power and like it just completely overhauls the weight. The only issue is that you can't really adjust the final drive, which is basically how long your gears are going to be. With this car, it is pretty tricky to control, but it is possible to drift with it. Why does that say I already own it? That is weird. What? What? I literally don't own it. I just sold it. What do you mean, game? Watch me join back and my car is gonna be gone, but the dealership still says that I own the car. That's just gonna be stupid. And I fell through the map. That's great. This, what the heck, dude? Anyway, attempt number 2 of buying the 180SX. Is it gonna be available for me to purchase? Yes, it is. Okay, so this car's only 24,000. This car is actually pretty solid. Here's something I'm gonna say now. Like, yeah, some of the JDM cars, like the RX-7 and the 240SX, G35, and like the S15, cars like that. I mean, yeah, they're pretty good drift cars, but a lot of people don't understand that some of the best drifting cars in the game are actually a majority of the supercars and the hypercars because they make so much power and don't have that much weight. It can flow really well. I should have disclosed this at the start of this video too, but the tune that I'm going to be showcasing works for mouse control. And this may not work for people that are on like keyboard or if they're playing with controller. This might work with controller because it's similar inputs. Only difference is that with mouse, like there's no variable throttle. You could also use this to learn how to play with mouse control too, which I mean, yeah, is another can of worms because mouse control isn't exactly the easiest way to play. But once you get down, this is coming from someone that used to play a lot on controller for drifting games. Once I swapped over to mouse, it took me a second, but I got way smoother on mouse. Some people just might stick with one input method and they can do that a lot better than changing to a totally different input method. Anyway, the next thing you're going to be doing, a lot of drift tunes I see online, they tell you like, oh, get stage 1, 2 on like turbo. With this, you're going to be maxing out both your engine and your forced induction upgrades. Depending on the car, like some Mercedes-Benzes and like some Lotuses from what I've seen. Lotuses? Is it Lodi? I don't know what the plural is. But some cars actually benefit more if you supercharge them than turbocharging them. However, for most consistency, I would go with turbocharging because the method that I'm going to be showing you on how to drift this these cars with my tune well is going to be totally different. Brakes, I would still get race brakes, depending on the car. If you get like a supercar or hypercar, I would run stock, so that way it doesn't lock up the brakes as much. Your brake bias, This is subjective on how you feel the car. I would just leave this stock for now, but if you feel like that the back end isn't getting kicked out enough when you're trying to drift, I would increase your bias towards more the front instead of the rear. Weight reduction, definitely get race. Same, your tires, well, obviously you need to get drift. I just fat fingered the space bar and got out of my car. Race transmission, what you're gonna be doing with the suspension next, this is also one of the key things as well. There's only going to be 2 sliders you're going to be adjusting. You're going to be adjusting your normal stiffness, and you're going to be changing your pre-compression. You're going to increase your stiffness front and rear all the way up, and then you're going to adjust your pre-compression down to what I do personally is to where the tires don't clip once you start adjusting. You may need to go back once you adjust the tire offset and width to finalize, like fine tune it a little bit more. I'm going to do the same with the rear. What this does, since there's going to be very little suspension travel, yeah, it's going to be really rough going through bumps, but you're not going to be drifting on bumps with these cars. You're going to be on the road. The car will barely squat under acceleration, even with this much power and very little weight. The car won't squat down as much. That way your car can stay as planted as possible when you're going through the corners. That way it's more consistent. Once you get done with that, you can go ahead and purchase your wheel width, wheel size, camber, and offset. These are all cosmetic. I thought at first that this was actually going to affect the car as a whole, but after thorough testing, I haven't had anything happen with it. Just don't, your offset may affect how your car behaves just very lightly, but don't go too crazy with your offset. Again, just with your wheel width, just make something that you see. I mean, if you really want to, you can just copy this exact build. I don't really mind. Make the tires just a little bit thicker in the back. Again, I don't want to go too crazy with it. I want to make it a little bit more realistic. Do 7 in the back, and then we can do like 4 in the rear. And then with the offset, I don't need to touch the front end, or actually I could like tuck the front end just a little bit. And then the back, I can bring it back down a little bit. Perfect. Now this right here this will make or break your drift tune right here. The way that your car steers and how it behaves when you throw it into a corner, this is all dictated right here. So I'll try to do my best to explain this, but there's probably more people down in the comments. If there's something that I miss or something that I don't get correct, you could fill me in on there down there, and I will take note of that in the future. Your steering speed dictates how, I mean, obviously, it's how fast when you turn from one direction to the other. So obviously, the higher that value, the faster your car will steer. With this value, you're going to be having it at 30. Return speed is how fast when you let off of when you let off this turn. So like right now, I'm fully turned to the right. When you let off, that's how fast your car will turn back. So obviously a higher value with this, it'll click back faster. At a lower value, it'll take longer for it to come back. And then your decay is a similar value to your return speed. Something like this, but I believe it's how linear the wheels kind of turn back. Both of these values, you're going to set them to 125. Your steer ratio, I wouldn't really touch, but your lock to lock, have this maxed out at 500. That way, this is how you get as much angle as possible. If you need to, if after you get done with this tune and you're finding yourself kind of straightening out a little bit more, you can adjust your steer ratio very lightly. I wouldn't put too much on it, because if you put too much on your steer ratio, you're going to have to readjust your gyro tuning completely, which is another key point as to keeping your tune consistent. Your steer dampness, you're going to set this to 185. Your steer dampness is basically, you can kind of see even with this low value, see how twitchy it is? The higher that value, the more linear it would be. So again, set it to 185, and then your steering aggression, set this to 150, which is basically how powerful it is when you turn the corner, or like when you turn the wheels on your car. You're going to do the same with your steering torque, which is another value that is used to dictate how fast the wheels turn back and forth. And then your minimum steering decay, you're going to set this to 25. Again, this is just how low the steering decay value starts when you start turning the wheel on the car. And they're going to go ahead and purchase that. If your car is front wheel drive or all wheel drive, please make sure that if you need to purchase it, purchase the rear wheel drive drivetrain, obviously, because that's how all the drift cars work mostly in this game. You're going to need rear wheel drive for your cars. Your differential, you're going to be leaving your coast and preload to 20. If your car isn't set, like some Porsches that I know, like they have like some weird values with their coast and preload options. just set it to 20, and then your powers, just max it all the way out. And then your gearing, this one you're gonna have to, this is from like practicing. After you get the tune set, you might have to change the gearing a little bit, so that way it's a little bit easier to control. When you make your gear shorter, like when this number right here is a higher number, your gear ratios are going to be shorter, therefore meaning you're going to have a lower top speed. And vice versa, if your number is lower, you're going to have longer gears, you're going to get a higher top speed, but in return, you're going to have less acceleration. You're going to want to have a fine tune to where it's controllable enough and also stable enough for you to actually hold long, like super long and high speed drifts. This is just gonna be a lot of messing. This will take some time to get used to. We could try this for now. And then body kits, it doesn't really matter. These don't really affect the car. I'm just gonna purchase this and then throw on some wheels and then try to fine tune it just a wee bit more. So I'll just cut to that. All right, after everything is said and done, this is the final build that I have. I still haven't drove the car and tested it and needed to adjust the gears a little bit. But yeah, this is what I got so far. I also would like to mention too that this build works best if the road is dry and it's not raining, because when it rains, you will have less traction when you're driving. That is something to keep in mind. Another setting too, when you're learning how to drift with this tune, you're gonna have to have your transmission set to auto/manual, not auto/semi. Because when you use manual, you are gonna have to be using your clutch, but when you practice it enough, you can just instantly shift. With the keybinds default on here, if you're unsure what binds are what, you can click on this controls button down here and it'll show for both keyboard, mouse, and controller. And for my instance, I'm going to be using mouse. You can change the keys if you want to, if needed, but I usually just play with the default binds. The only downside is that you can't adjust the dead zone or control width on these. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and let this rip, see how it is. So you're going to be relying a lot on your clutch and your handbrake, a lot, to slow yourself down. Yeah, as you can see, once you get enough practice, you can be buttery smooth with this. It's like, I'm going to go right up here. You're going to be holding down both the clutch and the handbrake. Like so. And then sometimes you need to tap the brake a little bit when you're transitioning or slowing down. That way you can get a better setup through the corners. So far, the fact that I just put in a random number with my gears, this is actually working a lot better than I would have thought. Another thing you can do with this tune also, you can do 360s. Flawlessly. I should have put this as a disclaimer in the start of the video, but this tune is supposed to emulate the feel of games like Solitary, Drift Paradise, and maybe a little bit of Prodigy. You kind of mesh them all into one game, and this is the tune you're going to be getting. I think a lot of people, if you've watched like Joeyy on YouTube, you probably already know what line I'm going to be taking on this right here. Go through star blocks, cut across right through here, turn right up here, and with here, you just only have to do one transition. You don't have to do multiple transitions, just only one. And then go around this pole right here at the hospital. So you could just full throttle right here, and you might have to tap the brake a little bit, but you don't really have to do a whole lot of a whole lot of letting off the gas. When you let off the gas, that's when you kind of start to strain out a little bit. I mean, sometimes it is good to let off the gas, but only if needed. Because most of the time you're going to end up just, I don't know if you can hear the car or not, you can tell how heavy I am using the accelerator. And I'll go ahead and showcase real quick what I mean by being able to handle high-speed corners, because that was another thing that I did notice from a lot of other people's drift tunes, is that most of them are meant for lower speed drifting, kind of like what I was showcasing just now. But like corners like this, they can't do, unless if they do a lot of transitions. With this tune, you can do this flawlessly with enough practice. Butter smooth. Just like that. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and round off the video from here. Just please know that if this tune doesn't work for you, even after considerable amount of times with practice, or if you're just not finding the right car, just know, one, tunes are subjective to everyone. They're not gonna be the right feel for you, and you may need to adjust the settings a little bit more for your liking. Each tune has its own feel, each car drives differently, even with the same tune, and it just takes a lot of getting used to. If you're still needing help, I will do my best in the comment section down below to help you out with what you are needing, with what you need. Anyways, I need to say this too. Thank you so much for getting me to 500 subscribers. That video that I did last year blew up just out of nowhere. I did not expect it to get that popular, that video is now my most popular video on this channel. So again, thank you guys so much for that. Another video in the future, possibly. I don't know. I'm trying to get myself back into the gist of it. I kind of got burnt out just uploading, but I've just been playing a lot of Southwest Florida lately, and I've been messing around with drift builds, and I haven't seen anyone do something like this in the past. So I'm just sharing this out with you guys. Again, if you learned something out of this, and if you enjoyed the video, you can go ahead and hit the like button. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, you can subscribe. I also do have Twitch, Roblox group, and a Discord server. All those will be down linked in the description below. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna take off now. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I will see you in the next video. Peace.
Body of Christ, lay underneath my tongue. Walk around the city, I got rat in my lung. Mice in the walls, is really well. With brains much. I don't like to feign too much. Yeah, I don't like to say too much. Yeah, back with her since when you wait 2 months. Yeah, I write my name on the walls. I know they pray in my fall. I know they praise for my fall. Like my pills, like my jeans, they both not crushed. Take a drum of me on my, I'm not nauseous. Overseas, I got blister packs and boxes. Try to score the doctor, gave you a lozenge.